some breaking news, by the way, just in the last couple of minutes, emerging from the free state of Florida. And I'm reading directly from this news report, have not yet seen the actual opinion that is saying this, but a federal judge today vacated the national mask mandate for planes and other forms of public transportation, arguing that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention had overstepped its authority. This ruling less than a week after the CDC extended the mandate for 15 days. I would imagine that the Biden administration will appeal this ruling from the Florida district judge almost immediately if they haven't already. But this would be an opportunity, if we could fast track this, Buck, to actually get this thing in front of the Supreme Court and see whether or not the Supreme Court would continue to accede to CDC authority. Remember, at least for part of the vaccine mandate, the Supreme Court memorably struck down the Joe Biden vaccine mandate as it pertained to OSHA, which was being enforced against the vast majority of employees. And now that vaccine mandate starting to disappear. I saw even over the weekend that Broadway shows in your city of New York are finally stopping to check for whether or not people have gotten the COVID vax. So you can go see now, I believe starting May 1st, a play on Broadway without having to prove that you got the COVID shot.
But they mask you up.
Breaking news, want to talk about this a little bit because we got some good news, and I feel like a lot of times there's bad news. Don't know how long it's going to last, but a hero federal district court judge in the state of Florida, not surprisingly a Donald Trump appointee, has struck down the mask mandate on airplanes, saying the CDC has exceeded its authority in implementing them, particularly this 15-day extension, which I believe runs now until May 3rd. Am I right about that, Buck? I think that I am, the 15-day extension now. And so the question will be, one, how quickly will the appeal be filed? And two, will there be other judges potentially in the state of Florida who will agree that the CDC has exceeded its authority? I think this is something that should have happened a long time ago. I have not read the opinion, but we have been making the argument on this show for some time. How in the world can the CDC say that COVID is not an emergency at the border under Title 42 and wipe that out and allow basically the border at the south to be wide open, while simultaneously saying it's not safe enough to fly on airplanes, particularly because, Buck, all 10 major airline CEOs have written a letter to the Biden administration saying it's time to remove the mandate. The CEOs of American Airlines and Southwest Airlines actually testified in front of Congress that based on air filtration systems, airplanes are one of the safest places you can be, so there's no merit to this idea in the first place.
It's really beyond parody that the final group that the left wants masked up, or the one that they've clung to the most, they've made mask up, are those at lowest risk, children, as we know. And in terms of group settings, congregate settings, as Fauci calls them, to sound more science-y, he loves that. Mitigation, congregate, all this stuff. He uses these terms so he sounds smart to dumb people. But of congregate settings out there, planes are probably the safest place you can actually be when it comes to COVID. And that's the final place that they're mandating masking as well. They don't just have the science wrong. They have it wrong in the worst way, in the most way on these things. You know, they're the furthest from possibly correct.
In fact, in all things, because if we're talking about pregnant man emojis and masks on 2-year-olds and masks on airplanes, Democrats aren't the party of science. They're the party of anti-science based on all the details out there.
Maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to fly or take an Amtrak in the next couple of days without having to mask up your face with a cloth mask, as if that really does anything to stop the spread. This is a fascinating moment because the judge, Clay, who's the judge? It's a Trump appointee, I believe 34 years old, female judge in Florida, right?
Yeah, just I'm going to give her credit because, again, I haven't read the opinion, but I know what the opinion is going to be based on because we've been talking about this for a year on this show. So, U.S. District Judge Catherine Kimball Mizell, I might be mispronouncing that, President Trump appointee. By the way, the important thing here so far is Justice Department spokeswoman said the department was reviewing the ruling but declined further comment. White House didn't respond to a request for comment either. That's somewhat interesting, Buck, because my thought would be that they would immediately say,
Right.
we believe this is, this is an incorrect ruling and we intend to immediately appeal. I'm stunned that they haven't already put that statement out.
It is likely, hasn't happened yet, it is likely that a federal appeals court will weigh in with some kind of stay and say pending further review, the lower court decision here out of Florida cannot be or should not be enacted, and therefore we'll go back to masking, unfortunately. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm not sure that's what's going to happen, but certainly looks likely at this stage. What I'm fascinated by is who will make a real argument in favor of this in public? I mean, Jen Psaki will go out there. She'll say anything, as we know. She'll go out there for the White House and say, well, we believe that we need to take this seriously, and taking it seriously means continuing. Just blather. Just blather.
Your Psaki, impersonation is underrated, by the way.
I listen to her a lot.
It's pretty good.
I know. I
Pretty
sit through
good.
those press conferences. Put me in a red wig, I could do a pretty good Psaki impersonation. But there's nobody out there who actually makes a real argument. Like, what is the purpose of masking up on planes? I mean, really get to its core, its essence here. It's to stop the spread of coronavirus. That's moronic beyond words, right? Where there's coronavirus spreading all over the country, everywhere, and planes are actually never proven as a high-level or even low-level source of transmission because of the HEPA filtration systems that they have installed. So there is absolutely zero basis for this in terms of stopping the spread. And then from an individual risk perspective, any person who thinks, I need my mask on the plane or I'm at too much risk, are they masking up in every restaurant they go to, in every workplace they go to, in every bar they sit in every other facet of their lives? If the answer to that is no, then we are just dealing with their emotional unwellness and pretending that this is actually having to do with science. There is no good faith argument for this. It does not exist, which is why I'm fascinated that there are all these people, apparently, Clay, all these blue checks on the Twitter who are saying, this is terrible, it's reckless, it's so awful. I mean, in New York, you get people in line to go into a Broadway play. Clay, I would wager 75% of them are either doing a pre-theater or post-theater meal in New York City at a restaurant right next door. A lot of the same people they're going to sit in the theater with. No masks. No
of
masks.
Course. Well, and by the way, if you are in need of your security blanket, if you are, and I think we need to start calling these people huge losers, then you can still wear a mask. There's not anything in this federal judge ruling that says you cannot wear a mask. It's just saying that everyone doesn't have to wear a mask. And apologies to the people in the city of brotherly love, our Clay and Buck fans in Philadelphia, in that area, who are listening to us right now. Other than Philadelphia right now, Buck, I don't believe there is any place in America that is requiring that people wear masks indoors other than airplanes, trains, airports. In other words, and many out there are listening to us right now, certainly if you live in a red state, the only place in the state of Tennessee that requires a mask is the airport and the airplane. Otherwise, I can be anywhere in my entire state, and there is no mask mandate to go or see or do anything. Yet when I pull my car up, park, walk into the airport, I have to put a mask on. It's the only place in the entire state now where I have to do that. And then I have to keep it on, theoretically, when I get on the airplane. So it is utterly nonsensical on every level. And I give credit to this woman, this judge, appointed district court judge by Trump, for actually standing up against this. And by the way, we should mention, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone out there, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has already weighed in, Great to see a federal judge in Florida follow the law and reject the Biden transportation mask mandate. Both airline employees and passengers deserve to have this misery end. Amen, indeed.
I got to tell you, one reason that Democrats have been so dug in on the plane mandate is because it's a place where it's federal law. So this is where all you red staters out there, all you people in places like Tennessee and Texas, the libs, get their opportunity to poke you in the eye or in the face over this one. So they love that. Otherwise, if you live in Tennessee, Texas, Florida, Wyoming, go down the list, right, the Dakotas, you don't have to worry about all the COVID madness of the blue states. Oh, yes, you do when it comes to flying on planes, when it comes to traveling. So the libs love that, right? They just enjoy agitating those people who live in red states that don't have to continue to pretend, go through the make-believe that the anxiety blankets that people have over their faces do anything. But, you see this, Clay, and I think there's also, for a lot of people, a recognition that planes are the place where they have the most authority. You think about restaurants. Restaurants really don't want to get into. There's a lot of other places you can go, a lot of other places you can eat. You can stay
100%
home.
right.
They don't really want to get into it with you over. And if let's be honest, if I'm in a restaurant and I want to make someone's life miserable because they don't, they want to make me mask up as I go to sit to the table. Yeah, what are they going to do? Call the cops? Ooh, I'll be gone before the cops get there. Just being realistic about it. If you argue with any of the masks, Stasi, on your American flight, your Delta flight, United, or heaven forbid, Spirit Airlines, which is obviously my airline of choice. If you argue with any of them, not only will they ruin your day, kick you off the flight, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts, they might ban you from the flight forever. I mean, imagine Joe's Pizzeria being like, I'm going to ban you forever for the mask. You'd be like, I'll get my pizza somewhere else. But the airlines had a lot of authority over this. More than any other place, it really felt like in America, they could just ram home the COVID anxiety madness, and the libs just loved it. They loved it. It was always reinforcing their neuroses.
Well, not only that, it's way easier to ban someone on an airplane when you have to provide so much information in order to get on an airplane, right? If Joe's Pizza gets mad at you one day and they're like, you're never allowed in here again, the odds of them
I come back with
really
a mustache. I said, my name is Giuseppe. I love your pizza.
The odds of them really following through are low. Whereas, I'm going to be honest. I know there are people listening to us right now who probably have gotten a ban over this stupid mask mandate from an airline. It kind of sucks when you want to go to a town and in your hometown, the only place and way that you can fly nonstop is through that particular airline, and then you can't even book it. I don't know what they would have to say to me. People make fun of me because I'm on Southwest Airlines all the time, but it's the easiest airline to fly in Nashville. It's easy to book on and off. They should be sponsoring this show probably for the amount of time I fly on their airline. But if they told me that I couldn't fly Southwest anymore, I wouldn't be able to travel anywhere easily in Nashville.
I mean, Rob O'Neill was a friend, a great guy, Navy SEAL, guy who shot bin Laden, best known as. Remember when this was from Business Insider back in August of 2020, Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, banned from Delta for refusing to wear a mask and tweeting about it. So that also was a thing that could happen. So if you spoke out publicly against your the mask policy on these planes, they might decide to punish you even further for your insolence.
Yes.
But this has been so stupid, and honestly, there should be such a sense of growing shame for the Siberian prison guards of the sky who were enforcing this stuff. I'm not talking about the people who were cool about it. I'm like, hey, they're going to yell at you unless, can you just do me a favor? You're like, of course, right? Like, I don't want anyone getting fired for this either. But that's not what I had. I had people that were like, you mask up and you mask until I tell you can't mask up. I had some psychopaths in the sky.
When they do all the retrospectives on the COVID era, and there are a lot of people who are going to have kids and grandkids that are either so young that they won't remember it or they haven't even been born yet, they're going to see this and they're going to say, wait a minute, Mom and Dad, wait a minute, Grandma and Grandpa. You're telling me that they told you that you had to wear a mask on the airplane, but you took it off when you ate or drank? and they claimed that made you safe on the airplane, and you're going to say, yes, that was the rule that everybody had to follow. And the kid, the grandkid or the kid, they're going to say, man, you guys were all idiots. And you're going to say, yes. Much like, Buck, do you ever talk to people about when you used to be able to smoke on an airplane? When you see like the 1960s or the 1950s television shows or movies or whatever that are set there, and you're like, man, that must have really sucked to have everybody just smoking cigarettes on an airplane when you have the air filtration system that defeated the whole purpose. Yeah, it was kind of crazy, kind of dumb. Well, masks are that for our generation. Let's hope. I don't think they will, but let's hope that the Biden administration just chooses not to appeal and fight back against this. I think we all know that they will, but until they actually do and put out that statement, and at least so far they haven't done it, maybe there are some people in the Biden administration saying, hey, this absolutely makes no sense. And so, yeah, the blue checks are furious. This blue check says, the judge who made this ruling, Catherine Kimball, is 35 years old. She was confirmed at the age of 33. Judiciary matters. Oh, that stinks. Tough break, bud. Guess what? She got this one right.
Cry more libs.
Amen. And celebrate more if you're on the party of truth, righteousness, and freedom. About to tweet out the judgment from the hero judge down in the state of Florida that has at least been willing to acknowledge that the mandate exceeds the CDC statutory authority, violates the procedures required. I'm reading from her order right now, saying the parties compete. Basically, the court concludes the mask mandate exceeds the CDC's statutory authority and violates the procedures required for agency rulemaking under the APA. Accordingly, the court vacates the mandate and remands it to the CDC. This is the federal court judge, 35-year-old now, Trump appointee, heroic. I'm not exaggerating this right now, Buck. I mean, as I'm reading this opinion, I feel like finally sanity is starting to prevail. Now, again, I'm sure it's going to be appealed. I'm sure it's going to be stayed pending that appeal. All these things would be my expectation. So far, the Biden Justice Department has not issued a statement saying, hey, we believe there's no basis whatsoever for this. And we've got some callers who are saying there are excited people at airports who are finding out that this news now exists and it's spreading, at least for the moment. This is the law of the land.
We've got Kevin in Houston, Texas. Says his wife is at the airport right now. Kevin, what's going on?
Yeah, she's actually at the Orlando airport with my daughter, and it's spreading. She said that people are literally, like, checking their phones, taking off the mask, walking down the jetways and whatnot. So it's definitely getting out there, which I think is a fantastic thing.
Oh, I think you're going to see some airline employees who think that they're going to just enforce this anyway, and there'll probably be videos of this breaking in the next few hours because this is going to get Clay. For some people, they have a mask-based mental illness. They think that unless you mask up when they say so, you are literally killing people. They actually there are people out there who think that. They all vote Democrat, by the way. I will just note that is 100% unfortunately a direct correlation.
And that's why we need to kick their ass in November. But yeah, I bet there are people listening to us right now driving to the airport who are thinking to themselves, and by the way, as long as this ruling is officially in effect, who are going to walk into the airport, take their masks off, and when they're told to put a mask back on, are going to say, actually, federal court judge just struck down the authority that the CDC has to implement this policy.
Sean in New Orleans. Sean, what's going on?
Hello. Hey, quick story. I just flew home from Vegas on Southwest 2 days ago, and we had a layover in Houston, and I got to the airport in Vegas. Nobody had a mask on. I didn't wear one. TSA made me put one on to go through security. I took it right back off. No problems. All the way through boarding the airplane, the flight all the way to Houston, no issues. They did the standard spiel, hey, this is a federal mandate, put your mask on. Hardly anybody on the plane had it on. Switched planes in Houston to my follow-through leg coming back home on Southwest again, and there was an absolute masked Nazi flight attendant that, I mean, it's a 40-minute flight from New Orleans to Vegas, and she probably talked about the mask the whole time. It was unreal. Couldn't believe it.
It is interesting because I have noticed this, Buck, and I think you have probably as well, that the individual policing of masks varies wildly
Hugely.
now,
Oh, yeah.
depending on which flight attendant crew and an airline crew you get on a particular flight.
I had a check-in person at one of the – I wasn't even checking in – pull me aside and say, your mask looks too thin. You need to put a different one on, to which I kind of just looked at this woman like, you know you have no authority, right? Like, I'll do this, but I'm about to go walk away and put my old mask back on. But, Clay, it's a mental illness. This is the problem they have. They actually – there's no reason. There's no rationality. There's no data. They've been told. They've been brainwashed. Tens of millions of our fellow Americans, my friends, have been brainwashed by the Democrat psycho-lib Fauciite apparatus. But today, the skies are parting and the sun is shining, at least a little bit on this issue.